First, I want to talk with you a bit about the supposed switch from a unipolar world, which is dominated by US hegemony, to a multipolar world where other governments, especially in the global south, are given more agency and more say in how the world is run. So lately, I've really kind of felt that the switch to a multipolar world has accelerated quite a bit, especially with the diplomatic gains China has made in the Middle East. So I was wondering if you believe that we're truly heading into a new multipolar paradigm, and I was also wondering what you think that might look like.
Well, the world is changing, and it's changing very fast from not just a unipolar world with the U.S. Role as a so-called hegemon, but really from a North Atlantic-led world of the last 2 centuries to a world where economy, finance, power is much more spread around the world. The industrial era began in England. It's therefore no real surprise that England or Britain became the first industrial global empire. And Britain ruled the seas and really ruled much of the world during the 19th century. And other European newly industrialized countries formed their own empires in Africa and in Asia. And that Western-led or North Atlantic-led world continued throughout the 20th century. But after 2 disastrous world wars and a Great Depression, the global leadership of the North Atlantic shifted from Western Europe and Britain to the United States. So the U.S. has been the dominant power since 1945. But with independence of India, the end of empire across Africa, the restoration of real sovereignty of China, starting with the formation of the People's Republic in 1949, and with the economics that has followed that, the world economy has rebalanced. The spread of technology has become far more equal. China, of course, has become one of the lead economies and centers of innovation of the world. India is one of the fastest growing large economies of the world. The world's changing. And for me, a notable point is that the BRICS countries, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, now, when measured at so-called international prices, have larger output than the G7 countries, than the United States, Canada, Britain, France, Italy, Germany, and Japan. So that's a notable change. All of this means we're moving to a multipolar world. None of it means that the United States likes it or accepts it right now. So psychologically, the U.S. is having a very hard time, and it's trying to hold on to its dominance. But that's just not possible in a world of diverse talents, skills, innovation, economy, when the U.S. is just 4% of the world population.
Yeah, I get the feeling that a lot of people, especially in the West, have this idea that they might suffer under a multipolar order. So do you think that fear is warranted, or can the US and the collective West continue to succeed in a more multipolar world?
You know, as an economist, I'm a believer in a win-win world. I don't believe that globalization or the rise of China or the rise of India or the rise of Africa in any way diminishes the opportunities for well-being in the United States or Europe. Indeed, I think it enhances those possibilities. In any event, we need cooperation to face challenges like human-induced climate change. So, for all of those reasons, I believe in a win-win world where gains from trade and advances in economy from technological advances can and should spread around the world. If you are a military strategist or a geopolitical strategist, it seems that the feeling is quite different, that the gain of the other is somehow a loss for you. And so I know that international relations realists sometimes think that China's rise is detrimental to the United States. It's a different mindset. I think it's a dangerous mindset, actually, to think in that way, because it almost inevitably leads to confrontation and the real chance of deadly conflict. And so I want to emphasize the win-win nature of the world economy. It's not one region's gain necessarily at the expense of the other. Everybody can benefit from the advancement of know-how and technology and scientific understanding.
I'm really crossing my fingers. I too am really pushing for a win-win kind of situation. Now, the US and China have gone through obviously a really rough patch in terms of relations of late, with Nancy Pelosi's provocative trip to Taiwan last year, to Balloongate, to these allegations of widespread genocide against the Muslim minorities in Xinjiang, to calls for war by 2025, to the Select Committee on so-called competition with the CPC. And of course, lately, we also have TikTok and the mainstream media's kind of feverish obsession with Yellow Peril 2.0, kind of painting China as this dark, dangerous, dirty dystopia. Why is it, do you think, that the US is seemingly so obsessed with tearing China down at the present moment? And what do you think it would take for those relations to improve?
I think almost all of this is the result of China's success. The United States strategists and politicians didn't want a peer or a rival competitor, and then China showed up on the scenes as a large, successful economy that for 40 years plus, since 1980, has been one of the most dynamic parts of the world economy, and now at the cutting edge of many leading technologies. And I think the United States political class resents this, is fearful of it. The geostrategists who think in terms of zero-sum struggles think that China's advances to the detriment of the United States. Again, a mindset I don't believe and don't accept, and think is actually a very dangerous one. But most of this is a reaction to China's success. And I think that it needs to be overcome through systematic dialogue, negotiation, hammering out solutions where there are real differences, not the shouting, the finger pointing, the kind of hysteria. Of course, there's a lot of prejudice built in as well. You mentioned Yellow Peril 2.0. Well, there is some feeling wrong in the United States that if China has advanced, they must have cheated.